So I may be audio only. I seem to be having an issue with my webcam. So that's not happening. Oh, what a bummer. I'll see if I can get that sorted out while we're working. All right, we are live, and I want to thank everybody for joining us this morning, this afternoon, this evening. I see we've got Dan from Hawaii at 4 a.m. But I wanted to introduce my friends in the panel on this search discussion this morning. Good morning, Minneapolis. That's excellent. So we have joining us from literally all over the world. I have my friend and co-Texan, Corey Roth from Dallas, Texas.
Hey,
I have Agnes Molnar who is joining us from Singapore this morning on a very shaky wireless connection, and we'll make sure that there she is. And Michael Svensson from Oslo. So you have a true international panel. And this is Matt McDermott from Austin. And once I get my webcam going, you'll be able to see my face. The topic of the day is search. And so we are looking for you to ask us questions and get us into the questions that you want answered. And so you just go ahead and use the chat session, use the everyone chat, and let us know what the things are that you want to know about for search. What I thought I'd do instead, just for a kickoff, so that while you guys get your search questions together, I'd like to ask the panel, and we can start ladies first. We'll start with Agnes. What are your, from Ignite, there were some pretty big announcements around SharePoint and search, and I'm curious what your favorite, pick a favorite. I'm sure that you're going to probably take one of ours as we go along. But let's go around the ring. We'll start with Agnes, and then Michael, and then Corey, and then hopefully by then I'll get my webcam working, and you guys will be able to see me. So favorite new feature announcement from Ignite.
Yes, definitely my favorite one is the Cloud SSA, the integration between the new way of integration between on-premises and the cloud, especially the way how you can leverage the benefit of Office Graph this way.
So the cloud integration with SharePoint, and then also being able to take advantage of Office Graph.
Yes, exactly.
How about you?
I think this is going to be huge.
Looks like Michael's audio is not coming through.
And Michael, we've got no audio from you.
Well, Michael is working at that. I'll talk about mine as well. Of course, Agnes kind of probably said my favorite as well. Definitely the cloud search service application is, I think, going to be the hot topic for those of us in the search world next year. It opens up a lot of opportunities that weren't very accessible before. With Office 365, the ability to index content from various things, including SharePoint 2010, 2013, and old farms you have lying around. So I think from a search perspective, we're all excited about that.
I totally agree with you. And what we're talking about.
Audio now?
Yeah, we can hear you now, Michael. So what's your favorite announcement?
I guess I have to chime in on the same thing, and I guess it was the only announcement. So one thing is getting the content into the search index, but I think the big thing is you can actually kill off most of your on-prem servers. Right.
You're talking about
you can start leveraging Delve, etc.
So killing off your on-prem search servers.
Yes.
Yep. And so the
easier management.
Right. So the notion that we can just have a single crawler, or maybe a redundant crawler, and then send everything up to the cloud and let them handle it with their hardware.
Correct.
So what other, since all four of us are in agreement that that's probably the coolest features, what other new features are we looking at? Is there, Michael, you have another one?
No. Well, I don't think there's basically any other direct search features coming. It's more, well, it's about having the hybrid story, tying it all together. But feature-wise, I think we're actually stepping down. If you don't look at the Office Graph stuff, we're sort of getting less and less technical features, which is interesting, and it's a fun way to work around it.
Yeah, I think, in theory, you're right. And I think the importance of this feature that we can talk about is what it allows. I mean, it's the connectivity to Office Graph, as everyone's saying. It's kind of like this key building block that we've all been waiting for in the search arena. Something we've been wanting since things started going to Office 365, and now we're going to be able to get signals easier into the Office Graph, whereas we probably would have had to write a lot of code before to make that happen if we really wanted to.
So I see we have a couple of questions here. There's one, if we have on-prem now, how do we transition to the cloud? And the other one is, if we're just starting SharePoint Online, what advice would you give in preparing documents to migrate them? Sort of the same thing. So I would then go back to what we just spoke about, the cloud search service application where you can do hybrid search. So as long as you don't have any custom content enrichment, something Corey and Matt talked about at Ignite, then you're pretty good off to just move the content to the cloud and it will just work. So that's the less customizations you have, the easier it is to migrate.
I guess the question for persons asking from Lynn here that what should we do to prepare documents to get them ready for migration to SharePoint Online, and I guess the answer to that really isn't any different whether you're on-prem or online. Of course, the more data you provide on the documents, we can leverage in search. Although things like Office Graph don't really rely on that stuff as much. Still, the more data you put on it, you can set up filters and issue better search queries and display more data to the users about the documents that you have. So any investment you're doing there, can still be leveraged whether you're going to SharePoint Online or SharePoint 2013.
I see Jenny has a question about documents being thrown into folders, libraries, and no metadata. That's actually not an easy one. Corey, you want to answer that?
So I didn't catch what you're saying.
The governance?
I think there's a little lag coming over the wire. Which question were you referring to? Okay. Sure, sure. Okay. Yeah, that's a great question. So there are a few things in the world of search that haven't made it to SharePoint Online and may never do. Probably the ones we're thinking about most are the things that you and I covered in our talk at Ignite, right? The content enrichment web service, for example, which lets you call out to an external web service during indexing to bring in additional data into search. Of course, what you also showed, Matt, in your session was, a clever workaround how you can approach the problem differently by using, a PowerShell script to inject metadata in and do the processing kind of offline from SharePoint. So there's always ways, but that's one example of something that's not there today in SharePoint Online.
I guess we have a question from Vipin. Even if we have search customizations on-prem, can we recreate those in cloud search customizations? That depends what kind of customizations. So if you are using enrichment customizations, the only way to migrate that is to sort of add more columns into SharePoint and have some sort of way to get that metadata into columns.
I think Jenny too had a question about the Office 365 environment. They basically they've copied their docs and they're just kind of in files and folders with no metadata set up. You know, where should they start fixing this? What do you think, Matt? Where's the best place to start on that? Yeah, that's right. So here's a question for you and Mikhail. You know, with Office Graph and things like that, you know, I feel like things are changing in search almost. For example, you know, before, you know, we've been talking about metadata just now, and we've been pushing on our users and our clients and our administrators, you know, you must tag data, you must tag, you know, spend all this time tagging, that's why your search is horrible. But then we look at kind of the features and where Office 365 is going, and there seems to be a de-emphasis on tagging, you know, especially when you look at Delve and Office Graph. You know, what do you think of that approach now? And do you think, you know, are we shifting away from tagging, or is it just hopeful, you know, wishful thinking, right?
I actually think you're onto something, and I'm doing a rank tuning project right now for a big company starting with the letter M. So you can guess what company that is. And they have sort of abandoned all tagging. And they have tons of documents in SharePoint Online. And how do you start tuning that? And the answer is partly for documents, I think. What I see is people are using Delve a lot to find documents, and then they're using the Search Center to find information. So if they want to find HR information, they go to Search Center to find the web pages. But if they want documents, they go to Delve because those documents are closer to them and will trend, etc. And then in regards to how do you tune and make it better, well, you actually let it sit for a while and let people click, 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 and it becomes better. And you do as little as possible. And metadata, well, you can use it, but seems like it's going away. It feels wrong. It sort of feel in my body that we want metadata. We want people to tag at least a little bit. But I think the battle might be lost. I don't hope so, but I think it might be lost.
Do you think all this effort companies are spending on tagging data going forward is wasted? I mean, should they keep doing it, or is it just, is it over,
You can't quote me on that, at least. I don't know. I think if we can find a way to easier tag it and find ways to tag it, okay, just take enterprise keywords as an example, like in SharePoint. People can tag it and the keywords are there. But by default, those keywords will not be weighted any more than other content in the results, right? So you don't get any search benefits from adding keywords, except that unless you have a keyword which is not in text, you get recall. So
Right.
why should you tag it? What does it give you? What does it give you as a benefit? And that's the same thing people have said for the past 15 years. I mean, I keep tagging, but what's the benefit?
Yeah.
I don't know.
What about the boards feature?
So I think for customized
filling
search experiences,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's filling in, but Delve as an application sort of works for the user because you see the tags and you see the boards. So if you had the same navigation, like a tag navigation on all your pages in SharePoint, it might have worked the same way. So I think it's more, so it could be a UI thing more than an actual tagging thing.
Hey, it's Matt.
Which is interesting.
Hey! You won't believe what I had to go through to get that to happen.
20 minutes in, not bad.
Hey, this is my third webcam. Let's see if this one works this time. Let me make a little adjustment here. All right. Okay, so metadata, definitely an issue, and the story that's going to continue to be written by Microsoft based on their success with Delve, their success with hybrid. And so there is a question in the queue, I just saw it go by, about information about hybrid config. That's going to be coming later in the year. But if you want to see the sessions related to hybrid search, then go to channel9.msdn.com. And probably the fastest way to find it would be to search on SharePoint Hybrid Search. But there were a couple of sessions, one by Neil Hodgkinson and one by Manas. I can't remember his last name, but that's pretty unique, so I'm sure the search engine will pick it up. And they demonstrated the hybrid search capability in this cloud service application that we've been talking about. So you can check Channel 9 for that. And I'm looking for the user in the audience that asked about that configuration. I'm not seeing it right away. But you know who you are, and hopefully that answers your question. There it is. So that's Vlad. Vlad O. that asked about that. Okay. So so Jenny, I think the bottom line is if you're not using any metadata at all, you have to rely on SharePoint search. You have to rely on the search intelligence and click-through relevance and some of the other features of SharePoint, including If it's in Office 365, the signals that are fed into Delve for relevance. But you're kind of at the mercy of the relevance model and of the click-through intelligence. And your end user is actually using search. If they're not using search, then nothing is being gathered, nothing is being learned by the search engine. So it is definitely a bigger challenge. Okay, so moving on. Tagging is a necessary evil. You are so correct, Mark Anderson. So other questions? You guys spotting any other questions here? Oh, what about tagging when it comes to ECM and records management?
Yeah. So I think their tagging still has some value, at least applying content types and things like that. You know, when it comes to records management, a lot of times we set our policies and things like that on content types themselves. You know, although I don't think we're seeing a lot of investment again in content types, metadata, or any of that. You know, a lot of those key features still are built on top of it. So I think the answer is probably still the same. They're there. You know, you probably want a little more detail in there, how long to retain this record, things like that. If you're using information sensitivity, for example, like classifying that on the document. So I think there's benefits. Now, are they necessarily benefits for search? Yeah, maybe not, right? Not that your e-discovery center and things still won't take advantage of those things. I don't think that scenario has changed too much. I think that's more of a power user, legal type tool for e-discovery, as opposed where Delve was more pushed out all the users using your system. What do y'all think? At least y'all.
Nope, we're still there. I'm giving Michael a chance to talk.
Yeah.
Takes a little while for the electrons to get to.
I thought it's the way stay away from ECM. Yeah.
He just said stay away from ECM.
Yeah, I guess I agree with Corey. I mean, as long as you can control the application, sort of. So if you look at ECM as an application, which sort of is, then it's easier to control it, and then definitely has something to do, and having metadata on there, and you can start linking information to each other with using the metadata, and we still do that a lot. So in ECM, definitely. Just purely document sharing, I'm not so sure.
Okay. So the questions are starting to come in hot and heavy, and I'm liking that a lot. So what we're going to do is we're going to start going around, and I'm just going to make some notes since they're really blowing on by, and try to get them in order. One of my favorite questions, I love this, what are some of the common mistakes that you see your customers making? I'm going to choose the first most common one, and that's that they pay absolutely no attention to search while they're doing their SharePoint project. It's always an afterthought.
Afterthought, right?
Michael?
Yeah.
Michael, what's the next most common thing you see?
Well, since I do a lot of more in-depth search projects, it's that they want to start tuning search too early. I mean, you need to let it sit for a while in production before you start doing tuning. Yep.
And how long's a while?
3 to 6 months, at least.
Okay.
Let it warm up.
Okay. Let it warm up. Let it learn.
Right.
Okay.
And
then Corey?
I'd probably say over-architecting or
Can you hear me, guys?
classifying documents. So we want to classify.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can, Agnes. Welcome back.
I'll just finish real quick. Just putting too much metadata on documents and requiring users to enter too much information about the classification of the document, then they just don't want to use your system. They go use something else.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And then there's another really good question here from Vipin. Many of our customers have liked e-commerce type search interface that allows all sorts of filters on the left and on the right of search results. Users keep selecting and deselecting filters and results appear. Have you seen such implementations? Are they more common with customers? How easy is it to tweak the out-of-the-box search UI to achieve the same?
Tweaking the out-of-the-box search UI is actually pretty easy, right? That's one of the probably biggest improvements we got in SharePoint 2013 in the search space. The nice thing about it, it doesn't rely on a bunch of server-side code, doesn't rely on XSL, doesn't rely on anything. It's just basically HTML and JavaScript to use the display templates. They have a lot of power, and they work in both SharePoint 2013 and SharePoint Online, which is great, so you can use them both places.
Right. So you're talking about display templates and query rules. Okay. So and for the folks listening, in the presentation notes, we've got some links in there to some material on how to get started with display templates and query rules, as well as a couple of presentations on Channel 9 from conferences past that talk about that topic specifically. So using display templates and query rules, you can change the refinement, the filters down the left side of the screen that Vipin was mentioning in his questions. And I find my clients, once they understand what those are for and that they can be changed and it's not that big a deal, I find that they dive into it. But it takes a degree of education, and it takes building a demo first. Because a lot of folks don't have, if they haven't been shopping at Amazon or Best Buy and haven't really internalized how search works in that way, the filters, the way that they work, they may not know what to ask for. And so a good demo is always beneficial for that. Michael?
And I think the hardest part with the refiners is finding the right refiners. And my experience is that users will use maybe the top 2, and then it doesn't really matter what you add, and then the customer wants like 5, 6, 7, 8, or 10 different categories. But finding the right 2 categories.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And the hard part. And then you need to know the organization and how they think, right? So
right, and again, I think that's where having the demo show them something, and then if they go, oh, I get it now. Let's move these 2 up. They're much more important than the rest of them. The bottom 4, we don't use those as often.
And here SharePoint could be better for us.
All right, so I'm going to move on.
Gave us more analytics.
Exactly. So telemetry around what kind of refiners are being used, find out how people are using search, and that way you know if they're not using those top 2, but they're using the bottom 3. Okay, so moving on. We talked about common mistakes. We talked about missed opportunities. Actually, I'm going to address missed opportunities. I think that that's different than common mistakes. For me, it's if you're going to make SharePoint your search center, do you search everything? And what is everything? So if you have a 4 terabyte file share that has files from back in 1997, does it make sense to crawl that content? Does it make sense to surface that content as a primary search resource? Okay, I'll answer my own question. I think it doesn't. If they're really old files, I think that you put them on a separate tab, because maybe they're important enough to crawl, but they're not important enough, they're not relevant enough to have up there on the primary search tab. And so you need to also address your messaging and possibly have the everything tab say, this is everything but the archive, and you can search the archive. But always use your company's jargon for what that archive is. Some companies call it the home drive, and some companies call it the O drive. And if that's what it is, then use that terminology so that people understand what's in the archive and what might be missing. And so I think those are missed opportunities. Getting people to use search to find the stuff they need. And this is a process I go through when we do search projects, where we talk about what should search be. If you were just given an open search box and started searching, as an employee, what do you think you should be searching? Michael?
Yeah, I guess I agree when you talk to or talk about what content to get in. I guess older content is hard. There's a lot of old file servers, and as you say, it might be good to have it on a separate tab so you have access to it. And also look at the dates and add date to your relevance model. That's actually one of the things I frequently do is add date to the default relevance model, because the default model doesn't look at the dates at all, and usually newer documents are more relevant than old ones.
That's a great tip. That's a great tip. And a blog post to follow, I assume?
Well, I do have one where you can do it using Xrank,
Cool.
and it's actually quite well documented on TechNet how to modify and add that part. It's just a small XML part, right?
So it is well documented on, and actually that's a good point. There is a ton of great documentation on TechNet, and for the folks that are new to SharePoint, they may know that, but for us old jaded, we're having to do it ourselves and reinvent the wheel. That may not be the first place we go, but the truth is there's some fantastic documentation on search, configuration as well as customization on TechNet. Okay, moving on. Quick question on the Cloud Search Service application. We seem to have really struck a chord here. Can the Cloud Search Service application search OneDrive? So let me explain what was presented at Ignite. The Cloud Search Service application is a crawler that runs on SharePoint on-prem, and then it publishes its results to Office 365, where the results are commingled with your tenant search results. So naturally, go ahead, Agnes.
I think we lost her.
Okay, so the notion, does it search OneDrive? The answer would be yes.
Okay, no, basically, because I'm sorry, I have some crazy network delay here. So
that's okay. Go ahead.
Yes, basically what I wanted to say is there are a lot of great and really amazing documentation on TechNet if you know what you have to search for. So if you know, okay, I have a problem with query rules, I would like to understand result sources and those kind of things, you can find a lot of good resources on TechNet. I think what is still missing is conceptual documentation on everything. When someone would like to understand how search as a whole system works.
And I agree with you, is that if you know how to search for what you're looking for on TechNet, you can generally find what you're looking for on TechNet, but it is search dependent. Were you going to make a recommendation around education on core search concepts? Okay, so I'm going to get back to the answer on the OneDrive and hybrid. And so the idea is that everything that you can crawl on-prem and everything that is crawled in Office 365 would appear in your search results. So the answer is, regardless of where your personal sites are, yes. Then the promise, and again, this is a promise, we only saw a preview, is that everything stored in Office 365 and everything stored in SharePoint on-prem is going to be available. And so that means that, yes, it will locate your OneDrive documents. And we're talking about OneDrive for business, of course.
Right. They did say there are a few edge cases that aren't supported, like if you're using custom security trimming with BCS and things like that. Some of those highly advanced customizations in search, so if you customize a lot, there may be things that don't work, to my understanding, but again, we haven't really seen it yet either, right?
That's true. That's true. Greg, I'm seeing your comments in the chat session. I understand your comments in the chat session. I'm not seeing a question, though. So if you've got a question about Delve, I'm more than happy to try to answer that, other than just nodding at what you're saying and saying that some users do find Delve a little challenging.
Yeah, I think he asked, how do I explain its usage to his users? So how are you explaining,
Oh, how do you explain its usage to its users? Sure. One of you guys want to handle that? I've been talking a lot.
Delve is a hard concept to explain. You know, I don't
Which
know if I have a
question was
silver
that?
bullet to answer it either, right? Until users see it and it's in place and it's collected enough content about info and content about your organization, it's hard to explain. You know, if you turn it on a fresh Office 365 farm, you're not going to see a whole lot, right? It really starts showing its value, just like when Mikhail was talking about search and tuning it and
So regarding video resources to explain Delve, if you go to channel 9 and search for Ignite and Delve, you'll probably find at least 2 or 3 sessions explaining and how Delve works and what's going on behind the scenes. And let me see, I can probably find a resource on the Office Microsoft site as well. Might work actually if you do officemicrosoft.com/delve. That might work. I haven't tried it.
Okay. Yeah, I think that understanding how the whole notion of signals, understanding how Delve is being fed, so to speak, is probably key to understanding how it works. I think that there's also specific cases where Delve works really, really well, like an office worker who's active in meetings, active collaborating in SharePoint, in groups, and this notion of the connectedness of the end user, that's really what drives Delve. And so if you're not that user, then I could understand you having some challenges with it. But if you start using Delve, the other feature to call out is creating boards. Is actually start using Delve not just as a search engine, but also use it to develop your boards and start having those curated areas in Delve that allow you to save the content that you're finding so that you can make them more relevant, because by creating the boards, you're now establishing relevance in Delve. Okay.
See what other questions we have in here.
Okay, so Dan, I want to thank you for the shout out. I really appreciate it. And that link, actually, Dan, one of the members here, said that he actually was kind enough to sit through my SharePoint Search Back to Front class on Pluralsight. There is a link in the presentation notes to that class if you all are interested in that. There's also another great search session if you're more developer oriented by Scott Hillier on Pluralsight. That's excellent as well as both Scott's and my material, and Michael and Agnes and Corey's materials on our blogs and on itunity.com. Some great stuff there. So there's a link to the search community on itunity as well in the presentation notes. Well, Greg, I don't want you to feel like an idiot. I hope this helped a little bit, but try out a couple things. Try some of the recommendations that we gave you, as well as the link that Michael just put into the chat session, and see if that helps. Okay, here's a good one from Lynn. Moving from virtual drives to Office 365, most would say, and I think there's still a lot of people that say this, ditch your folders, but with search being more powerful and with Delve, should I worry about moving away from folders when I move to Office 365? So are folders still evil? Michael?
I don't think folders are evil if you use them in the right way. I mean, people are used to putting items into folders, right? It's a way of bucketing things. So the question is, do you want to tap into the metadata the folders give you? So if you're structured enough to apply default content types or column values to folders, then use them. If you can't do that, then perhaps you shouldn't use folders. But still, using folders for users to navigate and put the data in might be a good thing, and then you can use views to tailor different views regardless of the folders. So, I mean, I've been on the folder or don't use folder wagon for a long while, but I'm starting to ease up because I use folders myself, right? But only for my own navigation, not for a more structured navigation in a bigger sense.
So you mentioned default metadata on folders. Corey, is that where you were headed?
Yeah, default metadata is, showed up in 2010. We used to implement it with custom code back in 2007, right? 2003. One of those great features in SharePoint that's kind of buried that nobody uses, right? But it's a great way to, pre-classify things. Anything uploaded to the invoices folder is an invoice, or
it also has one of the worst UIs in SharePoint. It also is one of the ugliest UIs in SharePoint. It's just gross. But it's worth finding just for that. That's right. It's worth finding just for that.
It's great. Yeah, I mean, it's a great feature, and it does help with those settings. So if you take the time to set those up for your users, you'll get a lot of benefit when it comes to search. But the UI is just terrible, and it just takes a lot of clicking and a lot of overhead to get there. It seems like it should be more intuitive, right?
That's true. Okay, so I've got to redirect because there's a lot of questions coming back on tagging versus metadata versus content types and looking for some clarification on that. So folks, we'll try to get to that right this moment. Corey, you want to take tagging versus metadata?
So yeah, we touched on that a little bit, right? I guess the way to put it is metadata's not necessarily dead. It's not necessarily bad that you're doing it, but it may not necessarily be the direction that the product is going either. Mikhail also talked on a little bit earlier in the talk today too, right? I think there's a lot of value to both. Tagging gives users a little more control and a little more control of their destiny, so to speak. They know where some of their data belongs. And if it's in an easy-to-use interface, they'll do it. I think we're seeing that some in Delve and the use of boards, things like that. But I think the interface could continue to get better, and I think it would be nice if the two kind of talk to each other. But it doesn't. But you can certainly do both, right? You can certainly classify your data with content types and then still also have it tagged in boards, and you're still going to get benefit in both places, right?
So I think the question that people are having a hard time with right now is we're using a phrase or a term called tags, and then we're using a term called metadata. And Michael, can you clarify the difference?
Tags are metadata.
Thank you.
So all different attributes of a document is metadata, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
so title is metadata.
A lot of reuse of the same terms, right?
Date is metadata. Author is metadata.
Yep. Okay. So I think that one of the things that I say during a lot of my presentations is the behavior, the human behavior of putting metadata on a document is not fun. But tagging is fun because the same people who refuse to put the company name, the project name, and the account manager on a contract are still going to go to Facebook, upload photos, and spend half an hour tagging faces in Facebook. And I think that if Microsoft could make applying metadata to documents more fun, I think it would take off like crazy. But at the same time, when I look at new features in Office 365 like groups, where I have no access in my site, in my group site, to content types or metadata, I just throw stuff in there, that's where I start getting the idea that Microsoft is moving away from metadata. And so how do we know? How do we know, aside from pulling aside a PM at Microsoft, to find out, is this a feature that we should continue to use, or should we just suck it up and stop putting metadata on our documents?
Yeah, it's a tough answer, right? Without having that crystal ball, without having that access to that, disclosed information, it puts us in a tough spot. And this isn't the only area where we're having to make tough decisions like that. We see it around groups. We used to see it around Yammer, things like that. We're in a transition period, clearly. I think, if we asked Microsoft, the official line we'd probably get is, keep doing what you're doing. It's not going away. But we're also working on this other stuff, and you should pay attention to it, right?
That's right. And I think that they're hearing that metadata is hard and not fun and not well adopted, and they're trying other avenues. But I think the message we need to give is, if you use metadata, if you classify your documents, even just applying a content type with no additional metadata, your search is going to get better. Your search results are going to be more relevant, and your people will start to smile when they do search in SharePoint.
Looks like Mikhail has a comment.
Yes, I sort of disagree with you, Matthew. Just because you start using content types doesn't mean your search gets better, unless you start tapping into the content types or creating a refiner on them or something.
Well, that's
because users will just use a content type, perhaps as a template. You get different word templates, but you don't actually get any value out of it unless you start tapping into it, right?
Exactly. But I'm saying it's a start, right? You're establishing a beachhead that is going to start getting people to think about, I'm not just throwing stuff into the SharePoint junk drawer, but I'm actually saying this particular thing is a contract, this particular thing is a project document, this thing is an invoice, so that I can find it later. If you store something with the notion that later on you're going to want to find it, I think that you get better results. The other way that I do this, and I work with organizations where they have low user adoption for search, is I create a search dashboard, so to speak, for their managers. And if they tag their content correctly, it starts showing up on the manager's dashboard, and that drives the behavior as well. So there's a couple different ways that you can do this, but if my salespeople don't tag a contract as a contract, then the sales manager doesn't know that they just signed a contract with a new company.
Yeah, that's a good point. And we can, and some of those, like we said, the contract example I even used, we can do things with default column values and things like that to help. But when you want specifics on, what's this contract number, or what's this company number, things like that, you want to start searching by that stuff in the future, obviously you have to put in the time to put that in.
And we just had, I don't know how this name came together, but I'm seeing TMC Elroy is how I'm going to pronounce it. Just used the ultimate SharePoint fallback, which is depends.
It depends, yeah.
It depends. It really does. It depends on your users. It depends on how big your company is. It depends on how much control you have over the content and the user behavior, and oh my gosh, so many different things. And ultimately it comes down to, does the business benefit from the behavior? And if the business benefits from the behavior, saves money or makes money, then encourage the behavior and support it with SharePoint Search. Well, we have 10 minutes left to go. We have 10 minutes left to go. I've been browsing through the notes here. I think we've kind of hit a bunch of different topics here.
Yeah, or if we missed your questions. Sounds like a great question for Mikhail. I haven't even.
So I worked with, but only mounted encrypted drives, so not where the crawler had to access the encrypted drive with some special key. I guess if you had that, then you would have to create a special BCS connector, custom connector or something. Or do you mean encrypted where the search index is on encrypted drives?
Good point. We haven't talked about Azure Search. So what are your thoughts, Mikhail? When should you use Azure Search versus what we have on the SharePoint Office 365 stack? Yeah, I would agree with everything you all said. I think it's definitely interesting technology. Probably makes a lot of sense for your public-facing website scenarios for sure. Obviously, when you use it, there's a lot of things you have to wire up yourself, which is to be expected because Azure's more, a platform of building blocks than, a ready-to-go search engine, right? A month of time. Well, I don't know what I'd do with a whole month of time, but I'm definitely looking forward to helping some customers connect hybrid search scenarios with the new cloud search service application whenever that finally does come out. I think this is stuff our customers have been asking for a long time, so I see a nice opportunity there to try some new things.